You are now tuned in to the On Track with All My People podcast with your hosts, Amber Peters, A.K.A. Mizz P.
And Daitwan David, A.K.A. Dr. Change. Ain't nothing strange about it. A.K.A. Mr. David, A.K.A. Ayo Mizz.
Oh my God, Daitwan, can we just start the show already?
Welcome back.
Before we get started, I just want to let y'all know this is take number 2 because that's what I do.
My God.
This is take number 2. You get wild nervous for no reason.
I ain't get nervous. My words just didn't come out.
Well, welcome to people back.
I tried. Welcome back, everybody.
You did it. I'm proud of you. I am so proud of you. Yes.
I said something last time. I don't know what I said.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We are here with
Amber Peters, A.K.A. Mizz P. And I'm here with this guy.
Dr. Strange, A.K.A. Daitwan David.
Dr. Change, sir.
I definitely said Dr. Strange.
Listen, Marvel, don't come for us.
Don't come for me. Dr. Change. There's nothing strange about it. That's the whole thing. Now you messing me up. It's contagious now. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Don't sue me. Dr. Change. I definitely said Dr. Strange.
Dr. Strange. I told him he was strange, but I guess.
But listen, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I want to stay focused and professional on this episode, right? I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be. Let me stay focused, right? Because I ain't worried about you. I'm getting to my season, right, where I'm about to get all of my thanks from the young people.
That's what you think.
Yeah, I am.
These kids, let me tell y'all, and all of my counselors out there, y'all, I know y'all feel me. Yes, you get some thank yous, but some of the kids that should be saying thank you.
I get it.
You be like, word. So that's how it got you.
But let's talk about how the thank yous come about. Young people, in about 5 weeks or so, many of them are going to be making a key decision, right? Like decision day, May 1st, etc. One of my decision days is going to be super fire. We're going to Bear Mountain for decision day, like for the entire day. I'm super excited about that. So that's going to be dope. Another one, we're really planning some really dope things for the students. But in this particular, for those that may not be familiar with it, decision day is where students are essentially committing to their schools, colleges, the post-secondary plans, and careers, right? They're committing to, this is what I'm going to be doing after I leave this high school institution.
Yes.
And with that being stated, students oftentimes are getting celebrated for that as well, yes. Right? So
as they should.
Right. Now, leading up to that, we have many young people that have to figure out a whole bunch of different things in their minds that they see, that they're getting external pressures from to figure out, like, hey, what is the best choice, the best fit school for me? Now, Amber, of course, I think similar to us modeling how we run workshops, we oftentimes use our personal stories to help young people and people overall understand certain concepts. So how did you determine your school, and was it a best fit for you?
I mean, it was a best fit at the time.
At the time, circumstantial.
Right? So a lot of my college choices were circumstantial. At the time, I had planned on going to HBCU. I say that all the time. I had planned on going to a HBCU. Found out me and my mama were broke, right? And that we had to make a different choice. And you know what? After a while, when I really thought about it, I was like, I'm fine with making a different choice. So I made a best fit decision for myself at the time. And the best fit was finding something super affordable. And, I thought that I would, end up transferring out. But I was having such a good time. I was seeing so many of my friends who did go away. They were coming back. It was broke, right? They owed money.
Right.
It was not looking good. So I was like, well, I can avoid all this by just staying here. So I ended up going to CUNY. So that journey was interesting because inside of CUNY, then I also had to find my best fit there. So, but it was a circumstantial choice. It wasn't like it was the best fit for the time, but not necessarily what I thought was going to be my best fit.
That's a great point that you made, right? Like being able to understand that it was circumstantial, best fit at the time. And then also when you got into CUNY, you needed to kind of carve out a space that was the best fit for you. For me, I attended Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. Shout out to my NU03 peoples. That was the class that we came in with. One of the young people, I'm doing these Kahoot games where young people get a chance to understand me. And they were just like, yo, why did you go to Boston? I was like, it wasn't necessarily me choosing to go to Boston, although that should be a factor, right? Like, because there are different cultural norms, different kind of things to kind of factor in. But the institution that I went with, Northeastern University, was a 5-year school. And somebody was like, what? 5 years for your bachelor's? But it was a co-op school. So essentially what that meant was 3 years I would be in classes and 2 years I would be working. Right? Paid work as well, right? Like wasn't volunteer or whatever. So that's
attractive.
That was the draw, right? Like that was the draw for many people, right? And now what's interesting right now is me and majority of my friends could not get into that school right now because they've definitely set themselves up to like attract a bunch of people throughout the world. But with that, I think it was the best fit for me because I've always enjoyed school, but then I also knew that I enjoyed being able to work and get experiences, right? Like hands-on learning, project-based learning, and things like that. So for this particular episode, we wanted to kind of talk about best fit because young people are going to be receiving these letters of acceptance. Yes, you're in. And they're not receiving. They're receiving emails. Like before, they used to receive. We used to have these thick passages.
But you know what? I will say there was some people who went above and beyond. Especially like I don't know if they kept those practices up during the pandemic. Like they were sending like cool like swag boxes to kids. So I'm hoping like a lot of them kept that practice because it is very special. So I'm hoping people got more than a letter. Well, more than an email.
Or more than an email. Well, possibly. I do know that I'm seeing an increase of schools that are doing like their own like acceptance days, right? Where they're having students come to the campus and students are coming back with swag and be like, yo, I'm here, right? So It may be a marketing strategy, but it's working because I think it is super important for young people to explore the institutions that they're going to. Here's an interesting thing I want to connect with. There's a lot of young people that commit to schools that they've never attended. Like they've never even seen the campus. Let me tell you how crazy that is. During the housing market, I have a bunch of friends that are, of the age that are really trying to like elevate their lives. They're buying properties or whatever the case may be. And they said that the housing market was so savage that people were purchasing homes that they didn't even visit, right? Like, and they were paying overpriced, right? That concept is so crazy because of how desperate people were to kind of get to a certain thing. And I'm just thinking about how do you invest so much in a place that you don't even get a chance to actually see and kind of check to see if this is an environment that you should be in.
Listen.
Same concept, I think.
I think for me, and here's the thing, it's a double-edged sword for me, right? Because as a kid from the hood, right, that hadn't really like I traveled, but like for sure. I wasn't going to like college tours like that. Like my family wasn't just like let's get in the van and go on the college trip, right? Sure. It wasn't like that. So a lot of the colleges I picked was sight unseen, right? But now as an adult, I realize how crazy that is, right? Like you're about to invest $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in a school and you don't even know if the food is good, right? You ain't seen nan student, right? You don't know if the dorms are good or bad. And, I think I've seen a lot of it on my favorite app, TikTok. Y'all know I love TikTok, right? By now y'all know I love TikTok.
Of course she does.
There is obviously people that go to different schools who are like highlighting their own experience on this app, right? And I remember specifically like last year and the year before, there were so many complaints by students, right? That had not, or when they got to the school, when they actually did look at it, right? All the bad stuff was kind of like hidden, put in the closet, right? Because we got to do the dog and pony show for the new people. But I had a lot of students that, pretty much did not see. They went to school upset. Oh my God, it's awful. I'm breathing in mold. The food is terrible. I haven't eaten a proper meal in weeks, right? Like they're figuring those things out as they get on campus. But honestly, like I don't think we do a good enough job just in general of like exposing kids to like the college tours and things like that, or even utilizing things that exist because there's like fly-in programs and all these different things that students will be able to see colleges ahead of time. But a lot of them are not. They're just like, they're really picking like thousands of dollar schools with, I ain't see nothing.
Well, so here's what I can say. There's for sure a lot of financial barriers, time barriers that would prevent students and families from being able to get to these tours, right? I also think with things of technology increasing and also the pandemic, there's a lot of virtual tour websites
like
that students can see the campus at the very least, right? Also, there's a bunch of students that are like in this vlogging era, like there's so many students that are doing a day in the life of X school, right? And so they're getting a chance to kind of really explain from their perspective as a student what is going on. Of course, you need to take all of these things with a grain of salt, but at least making sure that if you cannot go to the visit, get a chance to physically visit the campus, that you have an opportunity to do enough research to say, hey, I at least know these things from what the school is saying and from what the student body is saying and from other professionals are saying.
Yes, that is my big thing is like, we're in this age where everything is on the freaking internet, right? We got UVisit, which is like you can do it in like the the virtual reality kind of get the glasses and set up and like literally feels like you're walking on campus. Or you can just go through, like they have it set up where you can see all the buildings and things like that. It has like a person who like will walk you through, hey, welcome to XYZ College. The college was built, blah, blah, blah. This is building. It was named after so-and-so. Like they will give you like a whole tour. And that way there's campus reels that is like, the students experience that Daitwan was talking about, where they're literally letting you into their like dorm room and kind of giving you an idea of what it means to be a kid on campus. You got campus tours. There's so many different ways to get this kind of virtual experience and like really have a better understanding of what you're getting into, at the very least, right? So many things that you could do online if you can't actually physically show up on campus.
So we have this idea and this concept that is definitely a part of the college access success scene of best fit colleges and what that means. And there's 4 different components. One being cultural fit, right? Like, does the culture of the campus and the culture of the students, do those things align, right? Can the students feel seen, valued, heard on that campus? And also, does the campus and the student body reflect a space where the student can feel like this is a good fit for me, right?
Especially now we are in 2023 and probably like one of the weirdest times in history in the United States.
For sure.
Where there's lots of polarization, race, class, everything is kind of coming to a head. Gender, everything is coming into a clash. So we definitely want to make sure that when we're looking at that fit, that we also like feel safe, have a sense of safety in regards to those things, right? And that we're putting ourselves in the best positions to like be around others that can also help to keep us safe.
Yeah, like it's interesting because the intersectionality of all of those identifying factors has created a lot of nuance that people are pushing back on, and some people are pushing forward with. And there's a lot that I think the world, but also college spaces, need to contend with and maybe adapt and adjust so that there is a more inclusive way for students to feel seen and visible and respected on campuses, right? We also have academic fit, like making sure that there's a match between the kind of academic opportunities the schools are offering, the rigor the schools are offering, making sure that students are not being undermatched, right? And also making sure that students can thrive in the academic setting, because also students are going to determine if you are an academic fit as well, right? They'll typically have, in many schools, they'll have a profile of the student that they are looking for per se, or the students that they have accepted. And with that being stated, they'll make some kind of determination. So we're going to talk about that as well. Then we have support fit, and then financial fit, which is the last one I always want to talk about, and I'll explain why. But let's get into like cultural fit, looking at campus environment and student body. So when we're thinking about cultural fit, for you, you're talking to a student and you're telling the student, consider best fit, right? And I want you to consider, if the school is a good fit for you, what are some of the things you want them to pay attention to in terms of the culture? I'll give you one thing. I had a young man that has never really left Brooklyn, only other than when he went back home to the Caribbean or whatever. And this young man was for sure going to go to a school that was in upstate New York. We're talking about not 3 hours, we're talking about 6 hours away, right? Like 6 hours away. Where there's essentially like they're cow tipping, like they're tipping over cows because that's the fun thing to do, right? Walmart is the lit spot, right? Like that's what they're doing, right? And this young man came back to me, was like, yo, Mr. David, they didn't have no bodegas and I can't do this. And I was just like, I feel you. He's like, no, I'm coming back. Like, this is crazy. This is like, and like there's a culture shock, right? So like people need to understand, like, yeah, you're still in New York, but New York City is different.
New York City and New York State, we're not the same,
right? And And so, in thinking about culture fit, of course, you got different types of campuses. You also have the student body. One person told me that he chose, one of the factors that influenced how he chose a campus is how the representation of the student body. Like, who were the students on campus, right? Because he knew that these were the individuals that he's going to be around for the next 3, 4, 5 years, etc. Right? So that was a part of the reason that he chose the school when he found a good fit. Like, the way that y'all represent yourself is how I actually want to be and what I want to surround myself with. So when you're thinking about cultural fit, what are the first things that come into mind in helping a student?
All of what you just said, but also like thinking about like just do I fit in or do I feel like I fit in? I think on some, even like when you go on certain college tours and things like that, when you go for the acceptance days and all that other stuff, like you kind of figure out, do I fit in here? And I've seen it where, you know, kids have not thought about that and like came into some stuff and like, oh my God, like this is not for me. I don't see anybody that looks like me on campus, or there's nobody interested in the things that I want to do on campus. And those are things that you can look at ahead of time. We need to really like do a better job of like teaching kids like, hey, pay attention to your surroundings when you're on these campuses, right? It's not just like, it's a cool trip or a way to get off of, you know, school grounds for a couple of hours. It's really like, really pay attention to see if do you feel something when you're here, right? Does anybody like look, act, sound like, or people that you want to aspire to, are those people on campus? That's part of the culture that you also want to look for as well. Like what do kids go to school? Yeah. Or do they party? Right? Like that's culture too.
That is
right?
culture.
So we have to really have a conversation with them about like really thinking about what all those things look like and what makes sense for them.
So for young people also, just like the type of college it is, like, you know, thinking about whether it's a small or large campus, also the environments that the colleges are in, whether it's urban, suburban, or rural campuses.
That can be interesting, right?
For sure.
I think, was it Cobleskill? Cobleskill was like built on like farmland, so it was like right? Like if you're not interested in all that probably might not be the school for you. Or maybe it is a school for you and it's like a different maybe you're looking to find a different environment that you can thrive in, because sometimes it's like this wouldn't be something I would normally go after, but for some people that ended up there, it was like, well, I didn't really enjoy it at first, but now like I kind of get it. And so you have to also think about that trade-off as well. Is like if I want to become more cultured in a sense, right, am I inviting a new experience or a new thing that I've never experienced personally, right? Am I also inviting that into my awareness so I can then thereby be different and maybe have some new things to pull from that I didn't have before I went to the school?
So I think that's such an interesting thing that you're talking about, because for some young people, they may not realize that they actually may be interested or enjoy something unless they try it, right? That's a lot of young people. One thing that's interesting, though, is that many campuses, depending on the campus that you are, oftentimes you don't have to leave the campus to get what you're looking for. Yeah. So what's interesting, Northeastern University is right in the hood.
Kind of campuses.
Northeastern University is right in the hood. But oftentimes, and it's overtaken a lot of the hood as well. But oftentimes, us being on campus, we didn't really feel like we needed to leave the campus for anything. We was able to go to the stores, the classes, parties, the dorms, everything was pretty much there. So we were centered around a lot of things and what we needed. A lot of our jobs were on campus as well. So you have opportunities, but there's some students that want to have access to the cities that they're in, right? Like, and so if public transportation, a lot of young people in New York, right?
Listen,
public transportation is not it. You might struggle. For real. So there's
those subways upstate.
There's a frame of mind. In Boston, the trains shut down at 12. I don't know what changed now, but they used to shut down at 12. So that means if you was not on the train by 12 and you went out for a party or whatever, you might be stuck. You might be walking, or hopefully your friends that are up there have cars or whatever the case may be. When you're from New York you cannot rationalize the train shutting down at any point in time, and also you not being able to go to Kennedy Fried Chicken after the party. Listen, it don't make sense to you, right? Like it doesn't make sense to you.
Oh man!
But it's just those adjustments that you're just like, hey, you need to really think about these things to see if you can deal with it. People laughed at me because I had a shopping cart. And I was like, wait, what? It's the norm in New York. They was like, yo, you're mad old, son. Like, what did you do with
the shopping cart?
I was going to the laundry. Like, go to the laundry with the shopping cart. I had laundry bags. What? Now, this is traumatizing because you laughing at me, too.
I'm just laughing at me, too. Because I'm just trying to imagine you in.
Nah, I was like, yo, for everything. Shopping cart, bro. Like, matter of fact, one of the first things I bought to move up to Boston was a shopping cart. I was like, nah, this is like a staple.
I mean, honestly, like, it makes sense, right? But, like, I'm just in my head thinking, like, how many people actually, like, was like, oh, I'm going to bring a shopping cart.
Oh, nah, I had to. Especially when I lived off campus. And people was like, yo, why you got a shopping cart? Like, you're 19, son. Like, what are you doing? Like, and when I got to Boston, it was like, that's not a thing that they do. They, like, drive to these places, so they just, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
they just thug it out. Yeah, they just thug it out just like that.
In their trunk.
Or it's the old people using it as a walker, and I guess I was looking like old people. But anyway, cultural fit. Okay, I want you to break down academic fit. There's two ways that we need to look at it. One is from the school's lens. Like, what is the school looking for? And why should young people be thinking about, hey, reach target and safety, where do I match with the school's expectation and requirements? And then also, from the student standpoint, we want them to understand that they're not there to be just they're choosing as well, right? Like, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So they need to also equally investigate, hey, do you meet my requirements? So what do you advise in the student in terms of academic fit?
I mean, academic fit for me is like, the classes are just my size, right? Mm-hmm. Like the classroom setting is the size they need to. Like, I remember I worked at a very small school, and then, a lot of the kids were very clear. I need that same setting that I'm getting here. I need to be able to get that in college because I don't know that I will make it in a very large classroom, right? Because, we went over different types of classroom sizes, lecture halls, what those look like, and things like that. And, like, I can see them like, whoa. So I would be in a class with 100 other people, and easily. What if I have a question, right? Or what if, some people can thrive in that environment because, they can take ownership of their learning, and it's like, all right, give me the textbook, I'm good, right? Even your talking is like not that serious for me. As long as I have the book, I can kind of figure out my way.
For sure.
But you have some young people that really like, I like to be in the process. I like to ask questions. I like people to know my name and feel like they know me. We had an episode, our last episode, episode 6, we had Shafiqua on there, and she was talking about her experience and how she was able to like take classes at 3 different colleges, and she was able to see for herself what was her best fit, right? Yep. So she liked the small class sizes, but she got to experience 3 different ones and figured out, oh, I really do like the small class sizes. That actually like makes more sense for me. Like the other ones make me feel like a number. So I think academic fit is kind of figuring out like, one, that takes some inner work for the young person too, to kind of like think 100%. About how is it that I learn? What is the best setup for me to be able to get and retain this information. Mm-hmm. And I think that will help them to make the decision on whether or not, like, if I'm going to this super large school where all the classes are super huge, am I going to the medium school where I'm still going to get some kind of, maybe like 30 students in the class, or am I going to a small college where I really need that one-on-one? I need the teacher to know my name. I need to be able to answer questions. So I think in academic fit, you really have to just think about how you learn, how you retain information. What are the schools promising in that regard as well when you're making that decision?
Yeah, so I think what is interesting for me with academic fit is that I'm reading, this book called Making Thinking Visible, and I know that it is something that's super popular in education. And one of the things I'm working with my daughter is to like get her to understand what's informing your choices. Like let's think about that. Also, like, what's informing the way in which you learn? Mm-hmm. Like, it's okay to say, like, I think I perform better in these environments. Well, why do you think that is? The environment is small enough. I get the more one-on-one attention. There's less distractions, etc. or I need to be around, larger people with more dynamic conversations, etc. I need not to be in small environments because there's something else that I'm looking for. And so I think that's like you're talking about that inner work. And I don't know if we within the field are doing enough of supporting young people with understanding that should be a part of their decision as well, right? Like, so
I think
academic fit.
That's part of something like when I think about the year, right? Because I think it's something to be said also within them being in high school, right? That we are able to have that conversation with young people early about like how do they feel they are getting the information? Does it make sense to them? Understand, like, is this classroom that you're in, is it too big? Is it too small? Is it just right? Is the teacher talking too fast? Is the teacher talking too slow? I think we have to do a better job just in general, because if we set them up before they get to college, right, they're not trying to figure out what their best fit is when they get to college.
For sure.
Because they already know exactly, like, okay, this is how I learn, so I need to find options that are in line with who I am as a student and, like, how I'm able to get and retain information. So that's just my 2 cents.
Right. So now we've gone over cultural fit and academic fit. With that also being stated, we also need to have students to understand that a lot of my students initially do not know that schools are requiring them to have a certain average or GPA, right? They're not. So they'll be like, hey, I'm going to apply to Harvard next year because that's what they want to do.
65 average.
With 65 average.
Girl, sit down.
I was like,
sit down.
No.
We
can apply. We can apply.
Sit down.
So you can tell people that you applied. But we have to have real and transparent conversations and like, hey, I need you to see this. And once you understand this process, I need you to understand like where does this fall? Like, we have the reach, target, and safety system. Safety schools being schools that, students feel like they exceed the school's academic and maybe testing expectations. The target schools, they're pretty much in line with it. So if the school is asking for, let's say, 85 GPA, the student has an 84, they're in line. That's a target student. That is the student that they're looking for. And then we have the reach schools where, let's say the school is looking for a 90 and the school has like an 86 GPA. It is within reason that the student can still apply, especially if they have some of the other things that play a role and a factor that would allow them to get into that school. But, if the school is looking for a 90 and you got a 70, that might be a challenge. So let's talk about support fit.
Yes.
So support fit is going to be extremely important for young people to make sure that they factor in, right? Like them being able to kind of understand, is the college going to help them to persist through the institution? Are they going to provide them resources? Are they going to help them to connect with what happens after they graduate?
Yes.
So in thinking about support fit, what are you helping young people to understand with that?
With support fit, like figuring out what's on campus, like that is supportive to them, right? Hence support fit. So like if I suck at writing, right, I need to know there's going to be a writing center, but I need to know how functional is that writing center, right? If I know I suck at chemistry, I might need to set up a tutor immediately, especially if I know it's going to be something that I need as a class to graduate, right? If I can't really get around certain things, right? Like there's certain things you can't get around math, right? If these things are things that are barriers for me in general, then I need to go seek out support, whether it's through tutoring or mentorship or something. I need to figure out, are those supports available for me on campus, right? Outside of that, right, there can be like other pieces of support, which is like maybe like support groups.
Right.
I know for me, and I'm always like using me as an example, one of the supports that I needed going into college was counseling. I did not know that I was suffering with anxiety disorder when I got into school. I had went through a whole robbery situation. I was working at Bellevue Hospital. I got robbed. It was bad. Had no idea what anxiety even was, but I knew that I was shaking out of control, butterflies in my stomach, couldn't breathe. I had all the classic symptoms. I had no idea what I was dealing with. So my first college did not help me with that. And so it was really tough for me to get through my first semester of school because I was like crying all the time. I would get on the train and like be in a ball of tears. I would be shaking, crying, all the things, right? When I got to BCC, which was, I think, for me, saved my life, right? Because I don't know where I would be if I didn't meet Ms. Godfrey, who was one of the counselors on staff. She helped me to kind of figure out everything, right? So what you're feeling is this. When you feel like that, let's try some breathing exercises that can help you calm down and things like that. Like, how are you feeling when you go into class? Like, really, like, checking up on me. Like, it wasn't just her job. Like, she just really wanted to make sure that I was good and acclimated to the campus well. For sure. And that actually changed a lot for me because I literally was not able to even travel to the school that I was going to first. I couldn't get on the train. I was like, I gotta change this. I can't. It's too far for me. Like, going to Chambers Street, and y'all know what college I'm talking about. Y'all know what Chambers Street, what college is on Chambers Street. For me to get back and forth to school, I had to figure out how the fastest way possible to do that. So me switching from one school to BCC, where I was able to get several different supports from clubs on campus, from counseling, and different things like that. Even the work study program that I was a part of, there were so many different supports for me to actually like be finished with that associate's degree that I had started. And also like to feel like a human at the end of the experience. That was big for me too.
So what you said is important. You literally did what our former guest, Dr. Kathy Ann Davis, talked about. Like you created and executed your transition post-secondary emergency plan, right? Like you found resources for your needs. You identified these are the things that I wanted. Yes. You also were connected to people on campus that can get you access to those resources. I read an article, and I'm hoping maybe we can post it in the tagline, the bio, or whatever. I read an article recently, I think it was posted in 2022, that stated that students that were surveyed said that mental health was like the number one support service that they felt like a lot of colleges were lacking that was needed, right? And I think that,
colleges tighten up.
Yeah. So, one, just kind of understanding like there's hopefully more of an awareness of why mental health and mental health support is needed. But in addition to that, there's a lot of things that I think students deal with, and trying to think about college, right? Like we have this whole idea of, imposter phenomenon. Like I know some people consider it as a syndrome. There is a thought process as to why we shouldn't call it a syndrome, but imposter phenomenon, right? Students showing up on campus and they realize like, I may not even belong here. They're feeling that might lead to like mental health challenges that students are dealing with, right?
What is the opposite of that? Because I've also seen students, and this is another phenomenon that I don't think people touch. When you have those kids, especially like, let's say I was the 4.0 kid my entire experience, and I get to college, and college is hard, right? And like there's like the opposite effect. Like I know I'm supposed to be here, but like it takes them so long to get help because I'm supposed to know this, right? I'm supposed to be good at this, right? So I don't know what they're gonna call that one, but that is also something that I've noticed with students. A lot of the time is like those kids are not the ones being checked on either, because then there's this other cognitive dissonance, right? I'm the smart kid. I am also struggling. How is this the same person, right? I think there's something to be said about that, and there's definitely some unraveling that happens for a student also when they feel like they're not meeting the bar when they're there.
I think those two particular students may experience some of the same symptoms or whatever, like symptoms for lack of a better term, because I often know that maybe some of those students may be in spaces where it's like they never really had to ask for the kind of support that they need in those moments, right? Like, so this is like, yo, what is going on? And they're suffering in silence, right? Like, because they want to maintain, just sort of like the merit, the credentials, the esteem that they had when they left high school, right? And so we also have to help young people to understand that creating and finding supports, I still struggle with it now, but creating and finding supports is critical to you being successful.
Yes.
Let's get to the last one, and then we want to kind of wrap this up. We got financial fit, and I choose this to be last on purpose.
I know.
And because like, oftentimes I think our people, in particular our people, I'm speaking of the Black and brown community. A lot of our decisions, like we base And we make decisions and choose not to make decisions based on cost, right? Like, we understand the reason why that is the case. With these particular opportunities, I want young people to think about the financial part last, because if they don't, they're not going to apply, to certain situations because they believe that the cost is going to be too much. So once again, if I ask a young person if a school is $60,000, do they go? And they tell me no, and I was like, well, why not? And they say we can't afford $60,000, right? But then if I were to say like, hey, but what if the school costs $60,000, but for you it's only $59,000? Right? Then they was like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, you can get scholarships, you can get financial aid, you can get all of these things or whatever. But financial fit is another part. How are you helping young people to understand if a school is financially fit for them, thinking about like affordability and all of those things?
I always tell them, let the colleges show you the money, right? Similar to you, is like, I talk about it because I think it's important enough to have a conversation around cost, the preparedness of it,
Absolutely.
right? And I think sometimes we don't prepare ourselves well, and I got plenty of young people I could get online right now. They'll be like, listen, if people told me how important my grades or me like being involved in certain things would have exposed me to more opportunities to make this college experience more affordable for me, right, we'd be having a whole different conversation. But I think let the colleges lead with that offer. Similar to like anything, when you see businesses, right, and you see like you always see the movies where it's like the executive in the boardroom, and it's like they got the negotiation numbers, right?
Sure,
they slide it across the table. Like, this is what we're prepared to offer, right? I tell kids, make sure you look over that offer and see like, does this offer make sense for me? Does it, the other thing is like, even though like, yeah, I don't want to lead with cost, but I do want people to make smart decisions. To really think about like what is the sacrifice that you have to make, because some people are prepared to make that sacrifice and some people are not, right? So thinking about, okay, for the kid who is like, let's say the kid is the primary breadwinner of the household,
right,
which we've seen,
right? A lot of that.
There is a guilt that sometimes comes up when it's like, okay, I'm gonna pay all this money to go be far away and like leave them destitute and figuring it out, right?
Sure.
I hate that some young people have to think about this, but it is something that they have to think about. So they have to think about the cost benefit there for themselves. So like, I think it's let them show you the money. Let's have a real conversation about it. Let's really think about what makes the most sense financially for us. And then also like knowing that like you're not stuck, right? There's different ways to skirt around it, right? Asking for more financial aid money or whatever. We talked about this before, right? There's other ways to kind of make that financial fit for you, but you also have to be willing to kind of like let go of that idea of like, I gotta go here, I don't care how much. Like
right.
you have to be open to like making different decisions. But like financially, like if it's a fit, that means that you're not gonna have a large amount of struggle. Or that the struggle that you go through will make sense in the end because now you have, financial backing to back it up. I'm going to have, like, the career that I'm going into is a 6-figure a year career. So I know that I'll be able to pay this back, right? They invested in me, and now I can invest in myself and then be able to pay back what I need to pay back when it's time. So, like, figuring out that cost benefit, but, like, financially, sit down, have a conversation, see what they're offering you, and then make decisions that make sense for that.
And the fit, and specifically as it regards to financial fit, we also need to make sure that the fit is not just a 1-year fit.
Yes.
Like there's a lot
college
of students
lasts 4 years.
4 years, right? Or 2 years, whatever you're choosing.
Or 5.
Right.
Or 6.
100%.
I gotta say this.
Look how animated. She's trying to get to my mic to tell y'all.
I gotta tell y'all, because the average, if you look at some of these averages, when you look at the data, they're over 6 years.
Yes. In terms of graduation rates.
In terms of graduation rate. So if you're in college for 6 years and not the 4 that you thought you were going to be in, are you making a decision where you are going to be able to pay for all the years that you're in school?
100%. That is a part of fit.
Something to think about.
Okay, here are a quick couple of other things. I don't want to gloss over them, but for the interest of time, we know that students are definitely going to think about the size of a school.
Yes.
We also want students to think about the program and the interests, right? Like, how well funded is your particular program at your school? Like if a major is well attended, in many instances, that school may be choosing to put resources for that particular major, right? Also looking at how is that particular major at that school ranked in comparison to like other schools, may be a role. Location and distance plays a huge role.
Big time.
There are some students that travel, the commute time might be a thing for them if they're commuting, or the location of where they're actually going to may not be something that really connects with them. Research opportunities, or the parents, right?
People that that's the other part, right? Sure. Sometimes the kid will like be ready. Ooh, this is
out
it,
of here.
And the parent will be like, wah, wah, wah.
Nope. They be like, yo, listen,
not you.
we can renovate the basement. You want to feel like you have your own space. we can renovate the basement.
So you want to go how many hours away from me?
For sure.
You want to go how many states over from me, right? Like sometimes that also comes to play also.
Definitely thinking about extracurricular activities. That was a huge part of my college experience. I have a question on Kahoot. I'm not going to say the answer to the question, but I on the Kahoot, I say all of the different things that I did, and like as soon as I realize what are the right answers, I just like, wait, what? Like that's like you did all of those things. Like, yeah, I wanted the experience. I was really involved in high school, and in college, I wanted to be really involved as well. And I sought these opportunities, and they were phenomenal, like long-lasting opportunities. One of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about is it's not discussed enough, but I think some students are talking about it. Is this idea of like open curriculum, and the way that it's thinking about is many students, why they may choose not to go to college is because it's just like, hey, I don't want to take all of these courses that have nothing to do with my major.
Unnecessary courses.
So there are some schools that are just like, hey, we don't give you a lot of those. You can take a lot of courses that are connected to your actual major, and that might entice a student to be like, hey, this is where I want to go.
Yeah.
If I want to be, say, psychology, I'm letting you know right now, I'm Mr. David, I'm not a math person. I want to be doing those extra math or whatever. So thinking about like the type of classes that are being offered at the school. The one other thing that I need, and some students I'm happy are thinking about it, is the graduation rates based on identity, right? Like there's a graduation rates overall, collective, but it oftentimes is skewed and looks different when you start to factor in race and gender, and start really breaking it down, right? And there are relatively reliable resources that can help students to kind of figure these things out, because there is a narrative and a story that, let's say, if a certain group, if the school's average graduation rate is at this level, but a certain group is at this level, a lower level, then there's something there that is happening that needs to be discussed, and we will have to investigate and change, that. Or even in the reverse, right? Like here's the school's average or whatever, and for a particular group, they are graduating at a higher rate, right? That may be a school that may be enticing, many people. So we're wrapping up, right? We talked about a lot of things with Best Fit. We're definitely looking forward to many of the students that are going to be making their choice.
I'm excited. Excited to see like where kids are going to land and what they're choosing. And like, I think I'm more concerned with the why. Like, I want to hear the why of like why they're choosing, right? Because like they're going to pick something, right? But like, what is driving them? What is the motivating force? I think that's something I really want to pay attention to. Particularly this year is like, why are people choosing where they're going, right? And like, we're hoping that we don't get this idea of like undermatching, that they're not like picking schools and undermatching themselves because of, circumstantial things similar to like my story. But we'll see how it plays out. I'm excited to see where it goes.
For sure. So here we are. We're wrapping up another episode. We definitely will be back to kind of talk about all of the schools that we are supporting and their decision days, right? And the different things that are happening there.
We are collaborating on a decision day. More details will come soon.
Awesome.
We're going to need your help on that to like source some materials for some very deserving students as well. So yeah, look out for that.
Looking forward to it. So here we are. We are here with
Amber Peters, A.K.A. Miss P.
and me, Dr. Change. Ain't nothing strange about it. We'll see y'all later. We're out.